I don't know about you guys, but I bloody love it. The memes, the absolute craziness of it all, the nonsensical claims that if a YouTuber loses the fight, their career is over and they can of course never show their face on the internet again. And while I love it for the absolute circus it's now become, with Jake Paul being the most talked about name in boxing, you can't ignore the fact that it's gone well beyond what anyone could have expected, and it's now being taken a lot more seriously by some pros within the sport. So is this YouTube trend a phenomenon that's going to continue for years, or is it just a fad? That's what I'll be aiming to document today as we look into the rise of YouTube boxing. So firstly, let's introduce some of the main players in the journey so far. KSI is without a doubt the top dog when it comes to YouTube boxers and is the current reigning champion. Logan Paul helped to take YouTube boxing mainstream with the help of KSI and currently has Floyd Mayweather in his sights. Jake is currently one of the most spoken about names in the fighting world and is leading the charge when it comes to this internet boxing crossover. Finally, Joe Weller, the founding father of YouTube boxing and the creator who effectively influenced this whole trend. So it's been quite a journey so far, sold out arenas, millions made in pay-per-view earnings, and plenty of crab dancing. While the Paul brothers have seemingly taken YouTube boxing to a whole new level, it didn't start with them. It started in a little gym on the southeast coast of England in the beautiful town of New Haven, which will now be known as the birthplace of YouTube boxing. On the 2nd of August 2017, Joe Weller uploaded a video titled Boxing Match Joe Weller vs Malfoy. The idea was conceived by both Joe and fellow YouTuber Theo Baker, as they thought it would be a good idea to have a boxing match for a video. Little did they know this would effectively become one of the most influential videos on YouTube based on what it would spark in the near future. The video didn't show much by way of boxing skill, but the commentary added by True Geordie made the video pretty funny to watch.
And now Weller looking to land an uppercut and a hook. But Theo answers back with one of those wrist punches he seems to be trying. Theo answers back. Theo just swinging for thin air here. But Weller connects. Only one big punch is going to get him back into it. Theo misses with the punch and then tries to hit him again with the backhand.
The eventual winner of the match would be Joe Weller, but that wasn't the end of it. In fact, that was just the beginning. Just as the video was ending, Joe Weller delivered a message to anyone that dared to challenge him for his self-proclaimed YouTube boxing title.
Alright, reporting live from our balcony in Ibiza. Obviously, following this fight, I've continued training. I've become a better fighter. And let's face it, Theo was just the beginning. Now, as the champion of boxing on YouTube, I am calling out for anyone that is brave enough to take me on. This maniac is not done. Feel free to comment down below, tweet me, whatever. Let's make this happen if you think you're hard enough.
That message was answered by none other than KSI. He responded to Joe's Instagram post with a comment saying, "Let me fight the winner." From here on out, tweets went back and forth between the two, videos were made calling each other out, and it eventually reached a head at a YouTuber event in September of 2017 called Upload Event. Halfway through a panel that KSI was talking on, the crowd's attention suddenly turned elsewhere as Joe Weller crashed the stage. The world of YouTube had never seen anything like this before. There was no diss tracks or Twitter beef here. It was two creators who had a genuine dislike for each other, and that was spilling out for the fans to see. The event culminated in a press conference the next day with the two YouTubers once again going head to head. Throughout the 15-minute conference, they were both constantly at each other's throats, and the crowd absolutely loved it. Joe would truly hype the potential of a boxing match between the two, as he brought the press conference to an end with quite a bang.
Just imagine this, that's all I'm going to say.
What event? This is upload, isn't it?
Imagine 8,000 people seeing your head absolutely crush onto the canvas. And Weller, lift his hands up!
Unfortunately for Joe, that would pretty much be the only hit he would be landing on KSI for a very long time.
Here we go. This surely is the end of the fight. JJ has got so much power. It's waved off. It's all over.
KSI would emerge victorious with an emphatic third-round stoppage, something that not many people would have bet on beforehand. The fight would be watched by over 8,000 people live in the arena and would end up becoming the biggest white-collar boxing event in history. So Joe Weller, the founding father of YouTube boxing, had lost his crown. However, there was so much more to come for this newfound YouTube trend. At the start of 2018, both Paul brothers were public enemy #1 across the internet. Logan had just been on a nice holiday to Japan, and Jake had just won the Oscar for Best YouTube Diss Track for its Everyday Bro. These two had a big target on their heads, and as a result, KSI would end up calling both of them out at the end of his fight with Joe Weller. He would issue a challenge for either of the Paul brothers to step up and fight him next.
Obviously, man's got this belt right now. If any YouTuber wants it, you can come get it. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, any of the Pauls, I don't care, bring it.
Logan was eventually chosen as the main suitor for KSI, and a boxing match between the two was agreed and would take place in the UK. Jake Paul would be fighting KSI's younger brother Deji on the undercard, a fight which Jake would go on to win, but let's come back to Jakey boy shortly. In the lead up to KSI versus Logan Paul's first fight, it was time for the YouTubers to truly shine and do what they do best: diss tracks. Several diss tracks were made in the lead up to the fight, all of which gained millions of views and helped to hype the event. Press conferences were held in both America and the UK, and KSI seemingly got the better of Logan on both occasions. By the time the main event came in August of 2018, millions of YouTube fans were fully invested in the fight, and it was being labelled as the biggest event in internet history. With 21,000 tickets sold inside the Manchester Arena, this was a big step up from the first fight with Joe Weller, but both KSI and Logan would not disappoint. After a fierce start from Logan, KSI managed to fight back and earn a draw in a highly entertaining match. However, this was a key moment in Logan Paul's career, as at that time, he was one of the most hated people on earth as a result of the Japanese forest incident. So the boxing match gave him that small shot of redemption, which he thanked KSI for at the end of the fight. With over 1 million pay-per-views, it became the largest non-professional boxing match of all time, and of course with the fight ending up in a draw, the stage was perfectly set for a rematch. This time, the head guards were off and the boys were going pro. With Eddie Hearn's involvement, one of the biggest fight promoters in the world, people all over the globe started to stand up and take notice. The match would take place at the Staples Center in the United States on November the 9th, 2019. Alongside this, in order to hype the fight, there were also 3 press conferences which were highly entertaining. KSI would train under Jeff Mayweather and up-and-coming professional boxer Vidal Riley, while Logan's main coach for the fight was 2-time heavyweight champion Shannon Briggs, a man whose vocabulary consisted of only 3 words.
Let's go, champ!
In the lead up to the fight, there were many professionals within boxing that criticised the event as a circus and said that it should never be considered as a professional fight. However, on the other side, many viewed it as a chance to bring in a new, younger audience to boxing and new opportunities. But regardless of what was said about the fight, it set the internet ablaze, and it also attracted some big-named celebrities to show up in attendance. It felt for many as if this was the first time we were seeing the evolution from mere YouTubers to superstars.
To the winner by split decision from the United Kingdom, the Nightmare, KSI!
The outcome of the fight was a KSI win, although not without controversy, as Logan was deducted 2 points for an illegal move. The fight itself truly introduced the power of YouTube to brands and sold over 1 million pay-per-views once again. Also, Jake Paul cried.
Jake Paul is the biggest fight in boxing right now. The biggest fight in boxing. I know you guys think I'm absolutely when I say this. Yes. I'm not joking. Literally every fighter, after their fight, Robert Whittaker said, I'd fight Jake Paul for less than $500,000. He is under everybody's skin. And what do I always say on this podcast? Haters and celebrators pay the same price of admission. And this guy is going to take people hating on him and ride that shit to the fucking top.
I think it's hard to disagree with that statement at this moment in time. And while Jake's boxing skills are still relatively unknown, he is constantly being called out by pro boxers and MMA fighters because they all want a piece of him. There's no doubt he's one of the most talked about influencers on the internet at this moment in time, and after his hat-stealing scenario with Floyd Mayweather, this has skyrocketed even further. But how did we get to the point where Jake Paul is now considered one of the biggest names in boxing? Well, let's go back to 2018. Jake's first fight came against Deji on the undercard of KSI and Logan's first match. Jake would emerge victorious with a TKO victory in the 5th round. We wouldn't see Jake in the ring again until both him and Joe Weller had a sparring match in Jake's backyard. The outcome would be a Jake Paul win, and he would immediately call out KSI. Fast forward to the end of 2019, and KSI had just beaten Logan in the rematch, and Jake vowed to avenge his brother's loss. Jake would continue to call KSI out, and eventually he would go on and make his debut as a pro boxer in January of 2020 against fellow YouTuber Aneeson Gibb. Aneeson Gibb's crab technique was brushed aside with relative ease after Jake put him on the canvas 3 times in the first round. However, with KSI in attendance, Jake would immediately call him out at the end of the fight, and the two would come face to face in the ring. It was now set up perfectly for KSI and Jake to battle it out in the ring, but it wasn't to be. The world, of course, shut down, so KSI versus Jake Paul was off the table for now. But in the months after the fight against Gibb, it would be Jake that would stay in the spotlight through his boxing exploits. His next opponent would be 36-year-old retired basketball player Nate Robinson, which was part of the undercard for the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fight. Jake would brutally KO Nate Robinson in the 2nd round by punching the life force out of his body.
KO.
The win led to Jake going on a social media rampage, calling out numerous people to box him, with Conor McGregor being his main target.
What the f is up, you Irish? Good morning, Conor McGregor. I know you're probably beating up old dudes in a bar right now, or maybe you're jacking off because you're sick of your wife. I mean, she's a 4, Conor. You could do a lot better, but happy Monday. My team sent you a $50 million offer this morning. $50 million cash, proof of funds, the biggest fight offer you've ever been offered, but you're scared to fight me, Connor. You're ducking me because you don't want to lose to a fucking YouTuber. You're 0-1 as a boxer. I'm 2-0 as a boxer. I just came off the 8th biggest pay-per-view event in history, but you want to fight Dustin Prober, who has less followers on Instagram than my dog. That's a fact. And Dana White, fucking pussy too, you ugly bald bitch. You said there's 0% chance of this fight happening, but there's 0% chance of you getting some pussy. Connor, you're scared. Dana, you're scared. Sign the contract, you idiots. Jesus Christ.
Jake's typical cocky attitude mixed in with him calling himself an elite fighter despite having never actually fought a professional boxer really got people talking. His next opponent would end up being 36-year-old retired MMA fighter Ben Askren, a fighter who was predominantly a wrestler and had a reputation for being one of the worst strikers in MMA history. Criticism of Jake's choice of opponent was called into question once again, as he's yet to truly be tested by an actual pro boxer. However, you can only beat what's in front of you, and once again, Jake would do exactly that. So Jake's fight with Ben Askren is rumoured to have generated $65 million in revenue. If that's true, it would put it as the 10th biggest pay-per-view match of all time, and it easily surpassed the numbers that KSI and Logan Paul did. As a result, this makes him the current YouTuber leading the charge with this boxing crossover. So whatever you say about Jake Paul, the way that he's played this whole boxing crossover has been absolutely genius. Let's be honest, Jake Paul's career as a YouTuber wasn't exactly on the up. The viewing figures that he used to hit of nearly 10 million views per upload are long gone, and alongside that, he even set up the financial freedom movement that we all remembered so well to try and make some extra money on the side. So the transition into boxing has certainly brought new life into keeping Jake Paul relevant. He's played the role of the villain very well and got under the skin of some of the biggest names in fighting, and they've all taken the bait.
Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this kid's done a good job of putting himself in a place to make some money, man, you know? So good for him. He's got you guys talking about him all the time and asking questions about him, and got Daniel Cormier running after him, so he's doing something right, you know? He knocked out an NBA guy that was 40 years old and 30 pounds less than him, and, you know, I don't even know what to think about the Askren thing, man. The whole thing is fucking mind-boggling to me, but hey, good for him. Grab that money while you can, kid.
Conor McGregor has also responded to his taunts online via Twitter, and as a result, Jake Paul is now one of the most talked about fighters in boxing. So for that, you have to give him credit because his strategy has been spot on in terms of getting noticed and putting himself in a position to make some serious money. So here we are 4 years on from where YouTube boxing began, and it's now more popular than ever. But considering that KSI and Logan haven't stepped in the ring again since their bout 2 years ago, how is it still such a popular trend? Memeability. I'm not sure if that's even a word, but it is now. Memeability. The fact is, it's incredibly easy to make funny memes out of a huge amount of what's happened in YouTube boxing. When Jake knocked out Nate Robinson, the memes of him unconscious on the canvas dominated the internet. When KSI beat Logan, Reddit was overflowing with memes of Logan having lost. So I think the memeability of it all really helps to keep YouTube boxing a fan favorite on the internet. So while YouTube has seen trends come and go over the years, none have pushed creators into the mainstream the way boxing has, and the amount of money the Paul brothers and KSI have supposedly made from it is rumoured to be in the millions. Of course, with mega money to be made, other YouTubers have tried to get in on the act, but in some cases, mainly in FouseyTube's case, it came... God. It fell well short. It does now seem as if all YouTube beef can only be settled if creators challenge each other to a boxing match, as apparently a tweet won't suffice these days and it now has to be settled with physical violence. So where does it leave the future of YouTube boxing? Well, we have a very random exhibition match of Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather coming in June of 2021. A very strange matchup that I don't think anyone asked for, that initially didn't really have much hype around it, that is, until Jake Paul decided to step in and do his thing and effectively promote the fight for Logan. I'd genuinely say at this moment in time, most people would probably rather see Jake versus Floyd Mayweather rather than Logan. The other YouTube boxing event on the horizon is the YouTubers versus TikTokers, an event that has no real reasoning behind it other than to jump on the trend of the times. What made KSI versus Logan so great was that there was a genuine hate between the two, and that's what you need in order to get fans to buy into these fights. These random events for the sake of it, with no real reason behind them, just don't hit in the same way. So I think YouTube boxing is here to stay for a while yet. Of course, Jake Paul versus KSI is now the fight everyone wants to see, but the reality is, like most other trends, it will eventually die out, and YouTubers will most likely rinse it for all it's worth, and then something new will come along. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please be sure to check out some of my other videos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please don't subscribe because I probably won't make one of these videos again.